In Korea, there is one of the strongest special forces units under number 709. Not long ago, it hosted a traditional promotion ceremony, during which everyone must fight each other until only one participant remains. However, this time only one person was able to cancel this tradition. As a result of the ceremony, all members of the unit were unable to continue serving, and the cumulative time taken to fully restore the unit was 448 weeks. After the incident, all members of the Special Forces filed a report to their commander with a request to dismiss them from service. In order to prevent the loss of so many very valuable employees, the command had to forcibly dismiss this fighter named John Kim, who had already become a legend. 3 years later, John Kim went to work as a civilian, sitting in his office trying to work when suddenly a crumpled napkin flies into his face. A department head named Jeff asks John why he considers this company an inn and dares to fall asleep on the job. John Kim asks for forgiveness and examines the napkin, trying to understand what his boss threw at him. Jeff tells John that these are tissues that he blows his nose into and orders him to throw them out for him, since there is no trash can nearby. John can hardly restrain himself and does not answer his boss, but decides to throw out his emotions and grabs his smartphone. Logging into a social network, John types out a huge test about his boss throwing napkins at him and expressing ideas about how it is necessary to create a structure that fires or transfers employees whose activities are detrimental to the company. Having properly spoken and let off steam, John exhales, wishing he could kill his boss since he was just a civilian. Suddenly, John receives a message on his phone saying that he, as a slave of a capitalist society, is given a chance. Suddenly, a red light lights up on the left temple of John's glasses, and a shiver runs down the top of his head. An augmented reality interface appears in the lenses of John's glasses, indicating that his registration is complete. A mysterious voice begins to sound in John's head, informing him that his name in the system is P099, and the first test for him is beginning. John tries to take off his strange glasses, but the glasses shoot a small cable into John's temple, warning him that if he doesn't wear his glasses for more than 60 seconds, he will be electrocuted. John is perplexed about the reasons for what is happening, remembering that the company gave him these glasses a long time ago, and there was never anything strange about them, when suddenly, a woman's voice interrupts his thoughts. A colleague named Arabella approaches John, looking at him with interest and saying that he doesn't look well. John tries to tell his colleague what is happening, but a voice in his head warns him that if he says a word, he will also be electrocuted. John decides it's not worth the risk, so he says that nothing bad happened to him, to which Arabella sincerely replies that she's glad to hear it, trying to propose a date after work today. Suddenly, Jeff bursts into the conversation, asking what's going on here and that he knows a suitable bar for private meetings. He adds that John will be working late again today, so Arabella can have a nice evening just with him. According to Jeff, Arabella shouldn't pay attention to people who have to work overtime because of their incompetence. Arabella is unimpressed by her boss's offer and leaves, saying she'll probably go back to her job, leaving John and Jeff alone. John tries with all his might to restrain himself, wondering at the reasons for his boss's behavior. Suddenly, a voice in John's head tells him that the mission creation algorithm has been successfully completed and asks him to analyze the people around him. John turns his gaze to his boss, and the glasses begin scanning, showing all his personal data, while he asks John questions, and is angry that they are not being answered. Jeff continues to be angry, but John's attention is occupied by the glasses, which inform him that Jeff's department chief has been selected as the target of the mission. The glasses inform John that his mission is for him to order the boss to stop swearing, adding that he will be given a punishment if he fails to comply. Jeff leaves, telling John to follow him while the main character tries to figure out what the hell is going on here. The points begin the countdown to punishment as John runs his head through ideas about where the points could have come from. The mission time runs out and John is informed that his loss rate is 50%. John tries to understand what this message even means and decides to check his personal bank account. Logging into his personal account, John discovers that his account balance has been halved in a matter of seconds. John loses his temper, slamming his hands on the table and shouting that everything that is happening is a circus, but decides to calm down and goes to the roof on the orders of his boss. Walking out onto the roof with John, Jeff starts poking John with his fingers and asks him if he's gone crazy. Jeff tells John that he hates people like him, believing that the main character avoids him not because he is afraid, but because he considers him vile. John says nothing, admitting to himself that he must remain silent in this situation since he needs this job. Suddenly, the boss's bullying is interrupted by Arabella, who sweetly asks John if he is stupid. Arabella says John must be very tired from working all day, adding that it's hard to buy a house these days, even if you're working your last legs. Arabella says that John needs to know when to tell everything in this world to hell, and shows the boss the tape recorder on which she recorded all his bullying. Jeff loses his temper and angrily asks Arabella what she is doing, trying to grab her with his hand. However, this time, John decides not to stand by and intercepts the boss's hand, preventing him from grabbing his colleague. Jeff gets even angrier, demanding that John let him go immediately, cursing him even more. The glasses record Jeff's aggressive behavior and give John a new task, which requires him to hit his boss in the Adam's apple. Jeff breaks free and punches John in the face with all his might, saying that now he will put him in his place. John decides he's had enough and easily dodges, delivering a counterpunch to the boss's Adam's apple. Chief Jeff falls to the ground, and John asks Arabella to act as if nothing happened. The points tell John that the mission is complete, giving him back all the funds he lost from the previous failure. Jeff struggles to his feet, calling John names again and asking him how he dared to hit his boss. The glasses again record Jeff's behavior, giving him a new task that requires him to beat up his boss for a 5-fold reward. Jeff loses his temper again and jumps at John, about to throw a powerful punch. However, John easily dodges this amateurish attack, and quickly going behind Jeff's back begins to choke him. After a while, Jeff passes out from lack of oxygen and John releases him, letting him fall face first to the floor. The glasses inform John that the task has been successfully completed, and he is delighted to see that his account now contains 170 million won. John recalls recently interviewing for the job while trying to live a normal life. However, after missions started giving him points, his life changed dramatically. Having completed all the missions given to him at first, John increased his fortune to 580 million won. John goes out onto the roof to rejoice at how rich he is becoming. However, his joy is interrupted by a copter that appears out of nowhere, carrying a small case with it. The drone flies up to John and drops a black case on him, hovering in the air. John opens the case, which contains the golden ticket, while the drone informs him that his test has passed. He adds that thanks to the ticket, John is now cleared for the main mission, and now he needs to collect 1 billion won in 1 week, or all his funds will be reset. John returns to his office, thinking that he still needs 420 million to complete the mission. John examines the golden ticket he received, and notices on it an inscription that this ticket allows you to borrow up to 100 million per use. John thinks that, among other things, he lacks information about these glasses, after which he notices Jeff and decides to call out to him. Jeff freezes in horror at the sound of John's voice and does not react to it, continuing to stand in a stupor. John comes close to Jeff, saying that he has a question, causing Jeff to suddenly cry out in fear. John covers Jeff's mouth to stop him from shouting and asks him to calmly answer the question, after which he asks if he knows about the origin of these glasses. Jeff replies that he doesn't know anything about these glasses, adding that he has never seen another pair like this on any other employee. John tries to figure out if his boss is lying, but his thoughts are interrupted by a message about a new mission. Delighted, John quickly gets dressed, saying that he will leave work early today and cheerfully leaves. John comes to the appointed place, which is the roof of a building under construction, and looks around. The glasses inform John that the reward for completing the task is 300 million won, adding that the competition between the participants begins. Suddenly, the construction lights turn on, illuminating a case lying on a huge reel. John walks over to the case and examines it, wondering how she ended up there. Having opened the suitcase, the main character discovers that it is filled to the limit with money. The points announce the rules, which mean that the winner is the one holding the bag at the end of the timer, which is 10 minutes. Suddenly, several bandits armed with bladed weapons come out from around the corner and tell John that he shouldn't have taken the bag so quickly. John examines the opponents, asking them if they are participants like him. The bandits laugh at John, asking him if he understands the situation in which he finds himself. However, the main character just smiles madly, asking them that to win he just needs to beat them all up. The main bandit shouts at John that he is being too arrogant and rushes to attack him. However, John, using the suitcase with money, easily blocks his attack. Laughing at the bandit's boast, John strikes the bandit with a strong palm strike. The force of the blow sends the bandit flying, destroying all fragile objects with his body. John laughs, looking at the surprised faces of the other bandits, saying that everything looks even simpler than he thought. The bandits gather their thoughts and attack John from different sides simultaneously, showing teamwork. John dodges attacks with a knife, easily placing a strong and impenetrable case under the blows. Having lost his temper from unsuccessful blows, the bandit makes a sharp lunge forward, trying to pierce John. However, John blocks the attack by holding the blade with surgical precision using a suitcase handle. Having broken the blade of the knife, John with all his strength lowers the heavy suitcase on the criminal's head, incapacitating him. John looks at the unconscious bandit, saying that they had misjudged their chances. The main character turns to the other bandit, telling him that he has a couple of questions. John asks him who runs the game, to which he replies that he knows nothing, adding that he simply received a bracelet and became a participant. John ponders the reasons why only his mission-issuing device is shaped like glasses, while the bandit decides to attack him, taking advantage of the opportunity. However, the bandit does not have time to do anything, because John quickly approaches him and asks him if he wants to stab him with this pathetic knife. Having not received a clear answer, John also hits the bandit with a suitcase, knocking him out. Suddenly, John hears the screams of one of the bandits, whose bracelet tells him that 300 million have been debited from him, concluding that the member is now bankrupt. The device reports that the bandit's debt has reached its maximum of 1 billion, adding that the debt collection procedure begins now. The device on the bandit's hand is activated, injecting some substance into the wearer's hand, indicating that the investigation into the case of the member of P16 has begun. The bandit's veins appear on his skin, turning purple, and in a trembling voice he begs John to help him. John is shocked by what he sees, remembering that his glasses apparently also have an injector that could kill him at any moment. Suddenly, two blue-skinned people wearing strange masks appear behind him, one of whom says that the participants are no different. Two bullies tie the bandit with chains and put him in a bag, saying that the participants in the game either become fabulously rich or lose everything. Left alone, John reflects that all participants, including himself, became victims of the thirst for profit, and all previous missions were just bait. Suddenly, a whole crowd of 48 people comes to the construction site and also decides to take the bag from John. The crowd surrounds John on all sides, preparing to attack, and he notices that it has somehow become too crowded. John takes a stance, preparing to attack, and tells his competitors to attack all at once. Glad that he can finally warm up, John easily distributes punches to all participants using a suitcase. When hit, 300 million won is deducted from each member, causing them to become desperate. The risk of losing such huge money due to one blow stops all participants, to which John only mockingly asks them why they do not want to attack him. The participants decide to attack from a distance, pelting John with stones and other available materials. However, John easily fights off all the objects flying at him like a suitcase, only laughing at the pitiful attempts of his opponents. As soon as the participants run out of ammunition, John makes a jump at one of the leaders, swinging his suitcase. After carrying out a crushing attack, the main character incapacitates the leader, making him bankrupt. Some participants figure that even the fine for failing a mission won't be that big, and they run away from the competition site in unison. However, the remaining participants have absolutely nothing to lose, so they take edged weapons and decide to attack John in a crowd. The masked creatures watch as John beats the participants one by one with a suitcase, multiplying the number of bankrupts. After a short period of time, John is already finishing off the last participant, noticing that his suit is torn. Having won the competition and received a prize of 300 million, John concludes that he can just buy himself a new one and leaves. A woman watches him from afar, saying that this member won't last long, turning to her mysterious colleague. The colleague tells her that he agrees with her, adding that John is attracting too much attention without realizing the danger he is in. Meanwhile, John decides to spend the night at the expensive Seagull Hotel instead of his home, where one night in a luxury room costs 20 million. The main character is happy that he can finally afford a rich life, and has an amount that he previously would not have earned in 10 years. The waitstaff enters the room, telling him that she has brought him the dish he ordered. John decides to try a special top-notch steak prepared by a 3-star Michelin chef. The girl's face changes, asking John if he likes the prepared dish. John breaks into a satisfied smile, reporting that the dish is incredibly tasty. The girl takes off her disguise, revealing herself to be the one who was following him at the construction site, and says that he is a completely reckless person. John looks at the girl blankly and after an awkward pause greets her. The girl asks him why he is so careless about being a participant, wondering to himself why John is not at all surprised by what happened. John replies that he noticed them from the very beginning, so he expected them to come, pointing to the second guest in his room. The mystery man turns out to be a white-haired adult man, who is a little surprised that John would just let them get close despite knowing about them. John replies that he noticed them following him, but could tell they didn't mean to harm him, adding that he wanted some answers himself. The man says he understands John's desire to extract information from them, adding that he will ask him something himself. The trio sits down at the table and the man asks John about how he became a member. John replies that he became one after receiving the device and completing test missions, to which the man asks him where his bracelet is. John replies that there are no rules stating that the bracelet must be on the wrist, deciding to withhold information about his glasses, causing the girl to sympathize with him, assuming that he wears it on his ankle. John says it's his turn to ask questions and asks the man if he knows how to remove the device. The man replies that the price for which the organization has set freedom is 2 billion won, and until this amount is paid, it is impossible to withdraw it. John asks if the man means by organization the operators of these devices, to which he receives an affirmative answer. The man explains to John that this organization is the creators of hell and the owners of the darknet, which uses tens of billions of illegal funds to organize terrible games. According to him, not a single participant has yet managed to regain their freedom. John asks the man why he is telling him all this, to which he replies that he wants to see what kind of person John is and what is more important to him in this life. John replies that he can simply buy his freedom by earning 10 billion won and keep enough to live on until he retires. The man concludes from John's words that money is the most important thing to him, and then asks the reason why John is confident that he can always win. While waiting for an answer, the man invites John to play a little game with him, sending him an invitation through his device. John says that he is not a person who is afraid of such challenges and accepts proposals, but the analysis of his opponent makes him freeze in place. Based on the data broadcast by his scores, sitting in front of him is a rank 3 competitor named Walter Mo, who has 14 wins and only 1 loss with a net worth of 4 billion won. The glasses tell John that the game is starting, and he no longer has the opportunity to give up, to which he is only sarcastically surprised. With a slight smile, Walter Mo asks the device what kind of game he and John have in front of him. John realizes that he has messed up big time and tries to ask Walter to wait and cancel the offer. However, Walter says that it is too late and the roulette has started spinning, which will determine the random game. In roulette, there is a dice game, the rules of which state that each participant has 2 black and white dice, and the player with the highest score wins, which is either the product of the rolled values if they are the same, or the highest if they are different. The girl opens the case saying that each chip is worth 10 million won, adding that each player will be given 88 chips. Walter adds that the white dice are thrown immediately, after which the players place bets, and then the glass is raised, on which the black dice become visible. John is surprised that this is just a game of luck, to which Walter Mo remarks that the main character is calm, which means he is confident. John calmly agrees, but in his heart he screams with indignation, remembering that his whole life is the embodiment of bad luck. Suddenly, John realizes that despite everything, he earned 880 million in 3 days, which means he is not so unlucky. After all the chips have been dealt and preparations have been completed, Walter Mo asks John if he is ready to start playing. John decides that he will turn his failure into a new opportunity and confidently rolls the white die. However, despite John's incredible self-esteem and confidence, he is given a treacherous unit. Walter also only got a 2 on the first roll, so he looks at her thoughtfully, turning over the options in his head. After weighing everything carefully, Walter bets 100 million, surprising John. Having assessed his chances and realizing that he has nowhere to retreat, John accepts Walter's bet. The girl says that since the bets have been accepted, she reveals the second dice for the participants. Walter rolls a 3, so his highest score is 3. However, John rolls another one, making him the loser of this round. John can't believe his eyes, while Walter says he didn't expect John to get paired in the first round. However, John is not giving up and says that now that he has gotten over his bad luck in the first round, he will continue to play further, expressing confidence that now everything will change. Unfortunately, confidence does not help John, and he loses over and over again without taking a single victory. After 500 million loss, the girl announces that they are moving on to the final round. After rolling the dice, Walter Mo rolls a 1 and John rolls a 6. John rejoices at the successful deal, but Walter goes all in, saying that he will give John a chance to win back and win everything. The main character is shocked by Walter's behavior, mentally reasoning about why Walter is so hopeful that he will get a 6, which in this game means an automatic victory. But realizing that during all this time, there have been no manipulations with the dice, he accepts the bet. John notes that if he had known what kind of person Walter was, he would never have sat down to play with him at the table, since Walter has a talent for absorbing luck. Walter rolls a 6, making him the automatic winner for this round and keeping John's entire fortune for himself. Walter leaves, saying that it was a fun competition, saying that they should meet again. He throws John a business card, telling him to find him if something more important than money comes into his life. The next evening, a corporate party gathers in the cafe, attended by John's colleagues. John himself gloomily sips a drink from a bottle, immersed in thoughts of lost money. A man approaches John, asking him why he looks so unwell while at a corporate party. The man is the president of the company where John works, named Matt Doc. However, John does not pay attention to Matt and continues to drink sullenly. Jeff jumps up, ingratiatingly trying to explain himself to the president. However, the president, smiling sweetly, tells Jeff that he sees nothing wrong and asks John to follow him. As soon as the two leave, the employees start talking to each other about John, saying that he is a little strange and talking about how they heard John went broke on some investment. Arabella listens to these conversations and expresses the hope that everything will be all right with John, to which she is told that the president of the company was nicknamed the Smiling Buddha for his benevolence. Meanwhile, Matt is on the street obscenely scolding John, holding him by the tie and saying that the main character should know his place and not spoil the corporate event with a sour face. He adds that a non-entity like John can be replaced at any time, despite the fact that he works hard. John reflects on the fact that he really has to work for freaks like Matt in order to earn pennies, but is interrupted by a slap in the face. Matt says that he will give him 100,000 won for each slap, so John should be grateful to him for raising him, to which the main character restrains himself from breaking his arm, when suddenly a new task comes to him. Suddenly John, breaking into a bright smile, cordially thanks Matt for the slaps, calling it a real-life lesson. John takes the president's hand and asks him to honor him by being with him and receive more of his wisdom. The president immediately becomes kinder and tells John that he agrees, demanding to go back to the cafe, where John will pour him a drink and they will go to the end. John smiles and agrees with the president, rereading the terms of his assignment, in which he is ordered to kidnap Matt for a huge reward. After some time, Matt Doc comes to his senses, being tied up in some garage. John tells Matt that he kidnapped him, checking the new mission conditions on his watch, from which it follows that the president needs to be locked in a certain place and held there for 24 hours. John tells the company's president, Matt, that he was dragging him around and causing all sorts of scenes. Matt demands to immediately untie him and give him the phone, but John takes it out of his pocket and clarifies if this is the phone he is talking about. John says he went through his phone and found various things, which angers Matt, who calls him a brat and demands to untie him. He continues his hysterics, screaming that John doesn't dare kidnap him and hope that nothing will happen to him for it. In response, John pokes Matt with his phone, which contains photos from a hidden camera installed in the company's women's restroom. John calls Matt a complete pervert, suggesting that he was the one who installed it, to which he only incomprehensibly asks how he was able to gain access to it. John only mocks Matt, not telling him that the intermediate reward for the kidnapping was learning how to hack devices. John tells Matt that if he turns this over to the police, very interesting things will happen. John says that he now understands why he had to kidnap Matt, when suddenly his attention is drawn to a folder with files on his phone. John dives into the contents of the folder, going through the names of the files when he suddenly stops. John's face changes and asks Matt who he thinks the company's employees are. Matt replies that all his employees are creatures who don't know their place, and he simply gives them a chance to achieve at least something in this life. John says that despite the fact that every person has skeletons in their closet, there will be no salvation for someone like Matt. Matt smiles arrogantly, saying that John is committing crimes himself now, so his intimidation will be useless. John shuts Matt up by telling him that from now on he will give him 100,000 won for every slap, telling him to think of it as patience training. Matt loses his temper, shouting at the main character that if he dares to touch his hair, he will be in trouble. However, he doesn't have time to finish as John's slap catches up with him, easily sending him flying to the ground. John sits down next to Matt and asks him about the reasons why Matt believes that if he has money, he can live like this. John raises the president of the company, adding that even just living like everyone else is becoming very difficult, and thanks to creatures like Matt, it is becoming almost unbearable. The main character hits the company president again, saying that he wants him to feel this injustice at least once in his life. Burning with fear and frustration, Matt Doc tries to squeeze out something like an apology. However, suddenly a man bursts into the garage where John locked him, rejoicing that he has found his target. There is no trace of remorse on the president's face, and he asks the man to help him, saying that John kidnapped him. The man and his accomplice arrive, telling Matt to stay put and wait, while the device on his arm announces a new target, saying that they need to rescue Matt. They tell John that they have nothing personal against him, and this is just a mission, to which he knowingly waves his hand, saying that he has no complaints either. The participants are surprised that John is acting too calmly, suspecting that something is wrong here. However, in the blink of an eye, John closes the distance with one of the participants and incapacitates him with one blow. Without thinking twice, John grabs the next participant and knocks him out in a few seconds. John shows off quite to himself, glad that his fighting skills have not sagged at all during his civilian life. Matt watches as John cuts down groups of opponents coming one after another and thinks about how he can escape. However, suddenly John takes a knife taken from one of the defeated participants and heads towards Matt. John cuts the ropes, freeing Matt, saying that he noticed he was bored, so he came to cheer him up. After that, he takes Matt by the legs and begins to spin him around with all his might, laughing cheerfully. After spinning Matt hard enough, he throws him at one of the still-standing contestants, knocking him out. Matt Doc cannot stand the psychological stress of the resulting fear and humiliation and begins to cry, looking at John. John tells Matt to stop crying, because they still have an amazing 15 hours ahead of him, during which he will help him be reborn. Another pair of participants waits behind the hangar, and notes that 5 teams have already entered there. One of the partners says that this only means that they need to abandon the mission. He motivates his decision by the fact that most likely there is a terribly strange and strong person inside, with whom it is simply impossible to come to an agreement. Meanwhile, John wakes up Matt, who has passed out from stress, and says that while he was sleeping, he thought about something. According to John, since he is taking charge of Matt's moral education, it is worth discussing the issue of his salary. John says that his salary should be 5 times higher than the current one, and demands that he be changed to a position that will allow him to earn the maximum with a minimum of work. He also adds that from now on, Matt Doc will be his dog until he raises him back into a human. Meanwhile, the scene is temporarily transferred to a special security prison, which only houses dangerous prisoners. A guard approaches prisoner number 3270's cell and asks him to hold out one more day. His device shows him his new mission, which is to free a first-degree criminal within 24 hours. The prisoner of this cell, out of idleness, hits the walls with his strongest head, leaving large holes. The guard's device adds that once he successfully completes the mission, a new game will begin,